Hey, what's up everyone? Danny Landon back with another video. Today we are checking out the Emeet Pixy. This is a little 4K webcam with a Sony sensor, and this is the way it looks after I've set it up the way I wanted it. So this will follow you around the room. As you saw, it's got a tracking feature which works great. I really like the tracking feature. I mean, in my opinion, that's just a cool feature to have. So if you're somebody who likes to get up and move around the room a lot and you need a camera to follow you, this will do this pretty well. We are in a very dimly lit room. This room is not bright at all, so this camera is doing great in low light. Those Sony sensors are amazing for low light. I would say this is an overall decent looking webcam. I mean, it doesn't look like a DSLR, but it looks a lot better than a lot of webcams I've used in the past. I mean, some of these webcams look awful. This one actually looks pretty nice. I mean, it's not bad at all for a webcam. So let's go ahead and look at some of the controls and adjustments and all that good stuff. We will compare this to a couple of other webcams here in a minute, but we're going to start off on the control page, right? You don't necessarily need this app in order to use the camera, but I would definitely download it, right? I'll put some links in the video's description where you can get the app, where you can get the camera, and all kinds of good stuff if you're interested. But the first thing we're going to look at is we have a little mode up here on the top left. We got standard mode, tracking, or privacy mode. And when you have this thing in standard mode, nothing happens. It's just like this. Once you put it in tracking, then that's when it starts following you around the room. Now, when you're in standard mode, you've got these controls to where you can click, you can click these little arrows and put the camera where you want it to get it in just that right spot. Now, you can grab this little circle and move it, but it moves so darn fast. Like, that little circle is a little too quick. It's very hard to get it exactly where you want it. Let's go back to tracking mode. I would like to be able to adjust this a little more because I think I would like to have myself a little higher. There's a little too much space above my head. So I like to be a little more like this, where there's a little less room on top of me there. So I fill up the screen a little more. But anyways, this does have a built-in microphone. We will test that out during this video as well. We're not currently using that, but we will test this out, all right? Next, if we click on the effects tab, if you put it on customize, right, you get to adjust it the way you want it. So this is the default setting. I find that it's a little bit too bright. I did bring this to their attention, and they said they're going to be working on some firmware updates to fix this so it looks a little like nicer. I mean, this doesn't look bad, but it's a little bit too bright. It's just a little bright and washed out. Next, we have the bright setting, which is even brighter. We have nostalgia. So these are basically filters. We got the blue setting. I kind of like this one for some reason. We got the cold setting. We got the vivid setting, which is going to add, I guess, some extra saturation. And then we have customize, which is you can set it any way you would like it. So the first setup over here, we got a dial for the brightness. You can turn the brightness up. You can turn the brightness down and, just kind of dial it in and then get it where you want it, right? Next, we have our contrast. We can crank our contrast up. We can have very little contrast, somewhere around like, I don't know, 150, 160. Just put it where you like it. Bottom line is there's not a lot to it. Just adjust that until you get the contrast that you would like. You want the blacks to look black, but you don't want them to look like too dark or too, bright. Anyways. Then we got our exposure. All right, so now we need to talk about the exposure value. Now, this is very important. Put your hand up and move it. Now, if I go to -4, you're going to notice I start getting motion blur. If I go to -3, I get a lot of motion blur, right? So around -5 is a good spot. I don't get too much motion blur. Then you can bring up the ISO. The higher the ISO, the brighter the image, and also the more noise you're going to get. Lower ISO is always better, right? Too low in a dimly lit room like mine, it's going to look like this. So you want to find the right mix of ISO versus brightness. But if you crank up the ISO too much, it will add grain and noise. Lower ISO will be the least noisy, right? That's just how cameras work. ISO, it's like a digital filter to let more light into the camera, but it will always add more grain as you crank it up. But I think that looks really nice right there. We got sharpness. If you want your image to look really sharp, you can crank up the sharpness. If you want your image to look a little softer, or if you want it like right in the center, but bam, there's medium sharpness. You've got a saturation tool. So if you want a lot of saturation, I don't think anybody's going to want that. Or if you want to be in black and white, you just turn that up or down a little bit past center, around like 140, 150. I think that's a nice amount of saturation right there. That looks pretty natural overall. And then we have our tones. So you can be like green. You can be, this is just really to adjust your skin tones to get it where you want it. Somewhere like right around the center is pretty good. So if your skin tone looks just a little bit off, you can fine tune it with the tone setting. And then we have auto white balance. So this is what auto white balance looks like right here. So it is an auto, or you can turn that off, and then you can adjust the white balance. You can make it cooler. You can make it warmer. So it's got all the controls you need to get this looking the way you want. I think the auto white balance actually does a pretty good job. Now you have a flip vertically button. So if you want to be upside down, I guess if you hang the camera upside down, you might want to do that. We got flip horizontally. That just looks weird when you flip it the opposite direction. And then we got anti-flicker. For some reason, that's X'd out right now. It's not letting me choose the 50 or the 60 hertz. I'm not really sure why. Now, the other day when I was on here, I was able to choose. Right now, it's not working. So that's interesting. Next, we have a button that says assistance, right? We're going to go over to the assistance tab, and we got our focus metering. So you got a couple of different things for the focus, right? The first one says select an area, focusing on these selectable areas, and you can kind of choose where you want the camera to focus. The second one in the middle is focusing right on the center. So if you put it right there, it's going to focus on whatever is in the center of the screen. Or if we do the third one, that's going to focus on a human face. So if it sees a face, it's going to focus on that. Next up, we have autofocus, right? We currently have this on autofocus. If you turn that off, you can change the focus yourself and dial that in and get it just where you want it, right? You can kind of get that focus just perfect. If you move that little slider over, that's looking really good right there. Now, my camera distance isn't going to change, but if you're up and moving around the room, you're going to want to make sure you put that on auto. That way, as you move around, it keeps the focus on you. Now, if you're just sitting in a chair like this, you can turn that off and you can dial it in and get it perfect. But if you're moving around, definitely use the autofocus. Next, we have gesture control. So there's a thing where you can turn tracking on and off by just putting up, I think it's your right hand. And you'll see the little colors on the camera change. So after a couple of seconds, it's changing from regular mode to tracking mode by doing this. So remember, if you put your hand up and hold it for a few seconds, that will change the mode. So right now we're in tracking. Did it change? There it goes. Now it changed modes. It does take a second, and now we're no longer in tracking mode. So if you're up and moving around the room and you're like, crap, I forgot to change on tracking mode, just wave at the camera. And all of a sudden you'll see, you see the lights blink and change colors, and bam, tracking mode is yours. You can set it up any way you want, and you'll be good to go. And then over here, we have the auto enter privacy mode settings, right? So you can set it for 10 seconds, 1 minute, 15 minutes, or never. I'm pretty sure out of the box it was set to never, so I would probably set that to either 1 minute or 15 minutes. That way, if you're not using the camera after either 1 minute or after 15 minutes, the camera will flip down and go into privacy mode, so it's not spying on you anymore. And you can turn your gesture controls on and off, or auto rotate. So right now I have it on auto rotate, so if I do turn the camera upside down, it's going to automatically flip over. All right, so if we go back to the effects mode, down here on like the bottom left corner right under the video, you're going to see you can pick 4K 30, 2K 30, 1080 60, 1080 30, or 720p. So whichever one of those things you want right there, you can use. Now, some things like the zoom, you can't use in 4K mode. I think it only works in like 1080 30. So if I change this to 1080 30 and I go over to the controls, somewhere in here. Okay, PZT. I got to turn off tracking. I got to go to standard, and I think I have to turn it to 1080, and then I have control over the zoom here. So that is something to think about. That only works in certain modes. If I go to 4K mode, the zoom is gone. 2K mode. Okay, it actually works in 2K mode. So maybe I was a little bit wrong about that. There's 1080 60. Yeah, for some reason it does not work in 1080 60 mode, but it does work in 2K mode, and it does work in 1080 30, and it does work on the 720, but we're going to go put that back up to 4K right there. So now we're back on the 4K mode. Now you can rotate yourself, and then we can do this. This just rotates us. We can do all kinds of weird things with the camera. I don't know why you would want it to be like that, but you can do it. You can also, you know, change the zoom over here on this little bar as well. And then if we hit refresh, that's going to put us back to normal mode. Next, we have whiteboard mode. So if you've got a whiteboard set up and you actually want to record yourself drawing on a whiteboard, you can enable that mode. And then we also have desktop mode. So if I click this, it points down, it shows my fat belly. All right, shows my fat belly and my desktop, which is pretty cool. So if I want to do something on my desk, I can do that, right? There's the desktop mode. So anyways, that's my keyboard here. There's one of my microphones and some stuff, my reading glasses. My desk is a mess. I'm sorry you guys had to see that. Let's get that back to normal mode. And it's still pointed down. So I've got to come over here and hit back to, I'm going to go ahead and refresh the position, and now we're back in normal mode. And let me readjust that really quickly. So bam. Honestly, it's a cool little webcam, right? It is a cool little webcam. I mean, I actually kind of like it. I think they could probably do a few things in firmware updates to fix it up a little bit and make it even better. But it's not a bad little webcam, guys and gals. It is not a bad little webcam. All right, so when it comes to all the controls and how everything works, there's our small tutorial on that. Now, one thing nice about 4K, this is why I personally like to run things in 4K, is I can zoom in, right? You can zoom in like crazy. You can make the image huge without losing too much quality, right? You can't do that in 1080. You start zooming in like that in 1080, it's going to look awful. I mean, I'm messing with my screen recorder here. I'm trying to get myself back to the right size, but you can zoom in like crazy on 4K, right? 1080 or 720, it's going to get pixelated and look terrible very quickly. But if you do that in 4K, you can really blow things up. So if you want to do like jump cuts where you're bigger and smaller and stuff like that, 4K is amazing for that kind of thing. 4K doesn't necessarily mean the video quality is going to look better, but it does mean you're going to have a much larger size that can be blown up bigger, easier, if that makes sense. I think you know what I mean. I don't think that came out right, but I think you know what I mean. But yeah, 4K is awesome for a lot of reasons. All right, let's test the autofocus on this thing. That's not too bad. I'll put a link in the video's description and in the pinned comment where you can get one of these Danny Lightning coffee cups and other Danny Lightning gear. It's actually doing a great job at focusing on this stuff. Let's put something else. You know what? It focuses on those items really quickly. That's not bad. That is not bad, all right? Yeah. I like that. That'd be great for showcasing products. Again, it's not the best looking camera I've ever seen in my life, but dang. It's great for the price, right? That is a very acceptable image right there. That image looks nice. It doesn't look like a mirrorless camera that I normally use, but in a low light situation, this looks great for a somewhat inexpensive webcam. It really does. I'm very impressed with this, honestly. I do hope they can update some of the controls and get the automatic brightness and stuff looking a little bit better with some firmware updates. But if you don't mind adjusting the controls yourself, that's not bad. That is not bad. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a quick screenshot of myself. So save screenshot. And what we're going to do is let you guys see a couple of other webcams compared to this. What I'll do is I'll show you the other webcam, then I'll pop up that screenshot, then I'll show you the other webcam and pop up that screenshot. I'm out of USB port, so I'm going to have to disconnect this camera while I'm showing you the other cameras, but hey, there we go. Now let's go ahead and test out the microphone on this thing, guys. We are going to switch over to the webcam's microphone. I haven't heard it yet. I don't know how it sounds. It might be good, it might be bad, it might be ugly, but we are about to find out. Okay, so I am recording this on a different day, but this is the way the Elgato Facecam Mark II looks. This is right here, so let's pop up that screenshot of the little Pixy webcam so you can see the difference between the two. So this is the Emeet Pixy right there. And again, this is the Elgato Facecam. Let's change over to another webcam really quick. All right, and this is the Anker C310 webcam right here. This actually does not look as good as I remember it looking last time I used it, but this is the Anker C310 recording in 4K, and this is what it looks like. Let's pop up a screenshot of the Emeet Pixy again so you can see that. So that right there is the Emeet Pixy, and this is the Anker C310. There's our little webcam comparison test. And this right here is my Sony mirrorless camera. Of course, that one is going to look the best, but you know, that is not a inexpensive webcam. You're not going to get this kind of quality for $100. But let's go and test the built-in microphone on this little webcam. Let's go do it to it. All right, so this is the microphone on the webcam, and on my streaming software, I see it's peaking right around -5 decibels, which is great. It's getting us up to a really nice loud volume. I mean, that microphone and the camera, you know, it's built in there, but it's a little over an arm's length away, and it's getting me to the right volume levels, or very close to the right volume levels. All right, so right now we have the microphone. Let me find the microphone settings on the software. So right now we are in live mode. All right, audio mode is live mode. Let's switch over to noise canceling mode. So we're gonna go ahead and, I guess I don't need that in front of my face anymore. So this is noise canceling mode. This should get rid of any background noise. Let me go ahead and pause this. I'm gonna turn on my window air conditioner and a fan and things that make a bunch of sound, and we're gonna see how well this works. So I will be right back. Actually, you know what? Let's test this out as I move around the room. So let's turn on this fan. All right, this fan's going to be making a lot of noise. I'm going to come over here and turn on this air conditioner. This thing gets very loud, so we've got a lot of room noise right now, and we are really testing out the noise canceling mode. And yeah, I guess I really don't need my headphones on at the moment, but that's pretty much the deal right there. All right, so right now we do have a lot of background noise. Let's put this back over to live mode. So now you can hear the difference between noise canceling and live mode. I would assume you're hearing a lot of white noise, a lot of hiss. The fan on the air conditioner is very loud. So hopefully that noise canceling does a really good job at getting rid of it. Let's go ahead and turn that back on. So bam. Now we are in noise canceling mode again. It should be getting rid of all the background noise. And let's go back over to live mode one last time. And now we have switched it back over to live mode. This should allow you to hear how much of this background noise this is getting rid of. So let's do one more thing. Let's type on a semi-loud mechanical keyboard. So this is what it sounds like when I'm clacking on a loud gaming keyboard. And let's turn on noise canceling again. So now we're back into noise canceling mode. And let's find out what that's doing as far as getting rid of that keyboard sound. So let's go back to live mode one last time. And there is one more sound mode. It's called original sound mode. I'm not really sure what that does. So let's go ahead and turn that on. And now we are in the original sound mode. Let's click on the keyboard. I'm not really sure if this has noise canceling built in or exactly what that's doing, but that is the original sound mode right there. So let me go ahead and turn this back onto tracking mode. There we go. I'm going to go turn this stuff off. All right, let's turn all this stuff making the loud noise back off. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to turn this off, and as I move around the room, you can tell if I'm getting louder or quieter, louder or quieter. And now we're going to find out what that original sound mode actually does compared to the live mode. So right now we are in the original sound mode. I have no clue what that means. Let's click on live mode. So bam, now we're on live mode. Do you hear any type of major difference in the way this sounds as we switch back and forth? So this is live mode. Back to original mode. We are back to original mode. Does it sound any different? Yes or no? Let me know which audio mode you like better in the comments. And now we are back to live mode. And now we're going to go back to noise canceling mode one last time, even though there's no noise. Let's just do a keyboard test for all three without all the other stuff. So noise canceling mode, right now it should be getting rid of a lot of that keyboard sound. Now we're doing the keyboard test on the original sound mode. So this is the original sound mode with nothing but a loud keyboard in a very quiet room. And now we're back to live mode with our keyboard test. So that should have been a good test for the microphone built into this webcam. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and switch back to my regular microphone. Now it does say if you're working on a gaming console, this will work for Xbox, but it says it does not work for PlayStations, guys and gals. So you can use this webcam for Xbox, but you cannot use it for PlayStation currently. All right, so let's go over some of these features. We've pulled this up on Amazon. This will cost you a little over 100, right around 120, 130 bucks. Again, I'll put some links in the video's description and the pinned comment where you can get this, but it says it's the world's first dual camera AI-powered PTZ 4K webcam. It's got a 1/2.55 inch sensor, so I guess it's a little over a 1-inch sensor if I'm understanding that correctly. And it is a Sony sensor. Sony makes amazing camera sensors that are really good for low light, so this is a really nice sensor. Of course, it's got the 3-chip smoother intelligent tracking, which you guys saw. The tracking works great. I think the tracking is awesome. It does have the Emeet Studio app, which you got to see earlier, where you can adjust all the presets or get it looking the way you want. This has a 3-mic array for multiple scenes. So this does have 3 different microphones built in, which is pretty cool. You know, it's got a bunch of different sound modes. We went over all that. We let you hear the microphone and all that good stuff. All right, so there's a good close-up of what this thing looks like on Amazon. That is the Emeet Pixy right there. Dual AI-powered PTZ camera with 2 lenses. There's a little bit about the AI chipset for tracking and all that good stuff. Effortless gesture control, intelligent auto tracking. Now right here, they're saying their webcam has great autofocus and other webcams are blurry. Now, honestly, I've never used another webcam that was blurry like that. They usually all have pretty good autofocus. So next up, we have more productive with preset modes. This right here shows you that there's a bunch of different preset modes. So there are a lot of presets, which is cool. You can make your own presets and all that good stuff to get this looking the way you want and doing what you want. Next, this talks about the microphone. It shows the 3 different microphones with AI voice on the top right there. So, ba-bam. Here's a little bit of something right there. It shows you it's good for Windows, Mac, OBS Studio, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, XSplit. I don't know what that other one is. Or right there, it says Nintendo Switch. So it looks like it also works with a Nintendo Switch. They do say this works with Xbox, but not with PlayStation. Just so you guys know, it will work with Xbox, but it will not work with a PlayStation. There's a little bit on the whiteboard mode, so it does have the whiteboard mode. So if you're recording yourself drawing on a whiteboard. And then finally, face tracking for seamless Twitch 2 gameplay. Switch 2. Switch, not Twitch. switch to gameplay. Anyways, this camera has a lot of really cool features. So if you want to see what this thing looks like next to an actual mirrorless camera, right, I have a Sony ZV-E10 Mark II, and honestly, I mean, the mirrorless camera is definitely looking better, but the webcam does not look bad whatsoever. I mean, it's not bad for a webcam, guys and gals. It is not bad for a teeny tiny little PTZ camera. It's not bad whatsoever. It looks pretty decent, in my opinion. You know, it's not the best looking camera I've ever seen in my life, but darn it, it looks good enough. It looks more than good enough to run a YouTube channel or something like that off of. And you're looking at like $130, so it's not super expensive. It looks fine. No complaints. Now, if I turn on auto white balance, I could probably try to, I could really sit here and spend some time and try to get these looking a little more similar, to get all the colors to match and everything else, or I could make them wildly different. But, that's something that's going to take a little bit of playing around with. I could probably spend 20-30 minutes trying to dial that in and get it just perfect so the two cameras matched or almost matched, which would be nice. But, I'm not going to do that to you guys. I'm not going to make you sit there and watch that, but you could do that if you wanted to. I mean, they're never going to look exact, but you should be able to get them at least close. Now, if you wanted to use this to maybe like switch camera angles, you could have your main camera over here, and then you could have this one switch to the next angle. That big white thing behind me, normally you can't see that, but that's just something to absorb some more of the reverb in the room. I got a bunch of stuff rigged up for sound treatment because nobody wants to hear a bunch of room reverb. It makes your audio sound terrible. That doesn't look great on camera, but that's what that thing is. But you could easily switch from this to this to this as you needed, and then you could really just dial those in and try to make them look similar. But, there's a lot of different things you could do with a couple of different cameras. So yeah, I like it. I really like the product. I really do. Now, I do personally think they probably need to make a few adjustments and change a few things on the Emeet Studio. But overall, even as it is the way it is right now, the camera's pretty cool. But I have a feeling a few firmware updates from now, they're going to be having this camera really dialed in and, doing a really great job. So we're going to switch back and forth. I got this all kinds of like messed up here. So yeah, anyways, you can do this if you want to. It's a great second camera, right? This is a really cool second camera. If you've already got a really nice camera in the first place, this would be great for getting a second angle. Or if you don't have a nice camera at all, this is a nice little camera, guys. It really is. It can be a main camera or a great second camera. Anyways, I guess I've been rambling on for long enough now. I hope you don't see my nose hairs. But anyways, I guess I've been rambling on about this camera for long enough now. We got to test all kinds of things out. This is how it looks from a very unconventional view. Oh, now it's for some reason focusing on my microphone, but it wants to show off the Shure microphone here. I don't know what it's doing. Stop that camera. You're supposed to focus on my face. It lost my face. But anyways, it's a cool little camera. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. Again, check the video's description or the pinned comment to find some links to where you can get this if you're interested. Again, it's not the best looking camera I've ever seen in my life, but for a webcam that's going to cost you a little over $100, it works great. It's got AI tracking. It looks more than good enough to run a YouTube channel off of or something like that for your average person. And it would be an excellent second camera if you've already got a great original camera. You know what I mean. Anyways, catch you later. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked the video, and we will catch you next time. See ya.